The Demeter Code by Russell Brooks. Music composed by Jeremy Vaco. For previous episodes, visit russellparkway.com. Chapter 2, Part 1. Sentinel Road, Rockford, Illinois, 6:17 p.m., Friday. Aubrey Lee Collins had serious doubts whether he'd get away with what he had done. For the past week, he'd been popping kaopectate pills, but his stomach problems persisted. He had cleared all of his debts with the money he made from selling company secrets, and still had a lot left over. The idea of seeing a shrink came to mind, only for him to second-guess that thought later on. "Oh, quit beating yourself up. You did what you had to do for Tina and your future child. Anyone would have done the same thing had they been in your shoes." Standing outside the front door to his cottage, Collins glanced up and down his street, focusing on his neighbors' homes. Surely, some of them had to be keeping up appearances too. He wasn't the only person who had made a bad investment here and there, nearly bankrupting him and his wife, Tina. For the past 8 months, he managed to keep their financial problems hidden from her. And it was better off that way that she didn't know, considering that she was almost 8 months pregnant. Besides, banks and other financial firms were known to be careless with other people's money. When they made mistakes, it was always the little guy who suffered. And often, the ones who screwed up rarely even got a slap on the wrist. Look at AIG back in 2008. Those fuckers should have gone under. But no, the government bailed them out instead. Who was there to bail him out? What the fuck? Then there was his employer, Cementum, and its executives. They weren't saints either. They've been involved in illegal practices for years, pissing off 3/4 of the planet. Yet, the company was never held accountable for any of their crimes. And Collins never recalled any top execs ever spending a day in jail. In the end, it all came down to who had the deepest pockets. So when Collins stole company secrets, ones that have sent the company's profits through the stratosphere, and sold them to some European guy who was willing to pay him $200,000 for them, he didn't hesitate. Come to think of it, he should have asked for more, like $500,000. Then again, he wasn't in a position to bargain. These guys were pros. They did their research and knew about his problems. That's how they knew that he'd be their best person to target. But it didn't matter anymore. This was his bailout. One that would cover the balance he owed on the house, and then some. So why did he still feel like shit? He sighed and let himself in his house. What's done is done. It was time to move on. He flicked on the switch. Oddly, the lights didn't turn on. Why is it so dark in here? Maybe Tina's gone to sleep. Collins walked to the next light switch down the hall. He flicked it on, then off, then on again. This one didn't work either. "Hey, Tina!" A few seconds went by and still no answer. "Where are you?" He put down his briefcase, took off his shoes, hung his coat, then walked to the kitchen. Collins must have walked through here in the dark hundreds of times to know where to step without a second thought. When both he and Tina had purchased this single-family cottage nearly 2 years before, he's never tripped over anything. He grabbed a beer from the fridge, and just as he was about to close the door, only then did he realize that the inner light didn't turn on either. Oh, come on, not a freaking blackout! Collins pushed the door as he walked away from the fridge. He heard it shut as he opened the beer can and took a swig. Tina would have a hissy fit if she caught him drinking before dinner. Collins was about to head back the way he came, when he caught a glimpse of light from behind the curtains by the back window. Oh, come on! He walked to the back porch door and parted the curtains slightly to see his neighbors' houses. On the other side of the fence, Collins clearly saw Pete and Janet Morrison moving back and forth between the stove and the kitchen table while their son, what was his name again, played on his Sony PlayStation in the other room. Son of a bitch, they had power. As did the others on the street. Wait a minute. Something wasn't right. He didn't drive through a blackened street on his way home, which he was sure of. Collins went back to the front and went outside, feeling the evening cool breeze, where he looked up and down his street. Lights were on everywhere. So why was his house in the dark? He closed the door and turned around and smiled. Of course. It was a prank. "All right, joke's over, you got me." He wondered what the occasion was. It wasn't his birthday, and it wasn't his wedding anniversary either. Then again, he didn't hear an answer. He'd go check the circuit breaker in the garage, but decided to call his wife first. She was rarely a foot away from her mobile. Collins grabbed his phone from his belt clip, scrolled through the list of contacts, and tapped the screen on Tina's name. There was a ringing on the other end, followed by a musical ringtone upstairs a second later. "Killing me softly? The Fugees? That's not the ringtone she matched my number with." The thought of her lying on the floor unconscious popped into mind. His heart pounded as he ran up the stairs, taking 2 steps at a time, and followed the music to the master bedroom. He came to an abrupt stop at the bedroom doorway as he grabbed onto both sides of the threshold. Collins swallowed hard as he now saw why Tina hadn't answered him. This concludes Chapter 2, Part 1. Stay tuned for another exciting episode of the DEMETER Code, coming next week.